Warriors fans, buckle up because there's a lot to break down right now when it comes to Golden State's roster and their next moves. Let's start with the big headline that dropped yesterday. Josh Giddey officially put pen to paper on a 4-year deal with the Chicago Bulls worth $100 million. For those of us who were hoping to see him in blue and gold, yeah, that stings a little. Giddey is the kind of player who fills up the stat sheet. A real floor general who could have been an incredible addition to the Warriors during the post-Steph Curry years. But instead, he's locked in with Chicago, at least until he hits 27 and is right in the middle of his prime. That's when Golden State might circle back and make a serious push, especially if they're in a rebuild mode by then. The interesting part of Giddey's deal is the length. Many people thought the Bulls would lock him up for 5 years, but they stopped at 4. That small detail could actually work in Golden State's favor down the line because it keeps the window open for them to swoop in later. For now, Chicago has their cornerstone guy, and the real challenge for them is building the rest of the roster around him. But here's where it gets intriguing for the Warriors. The Bulls are carrying a ton of expiring contracts, and you better believe Golden State should be circling like sharks to see what they can grab. We've all heard the talk about Nikola Vucevic, and I'm going to keep hammering that point because he fits. A skilled big man who can space the floor and rebound would check a lot of boxes for this Warriors roster. And it's not just Vucevic. Guys like Kevin Huerter, who thrives in a motion offense and can shoot the lights out from deep, would look very comfortable in Steve Kerr's system. Even someone like Coby White could be worth a look. Sure, he's a bit undersized and mostly focused on scoring, but think about the instant offense he could provide off the bench. That's something Golden State has always valued, especially when you need to swing momentum in a playoff game. He may not be the perfect fit, but the upside as a spark plug is obvious. But the bigger cloud hanging over the Warriors right now is the ongoing Jonathan Kuminga situation. This has dragged on all summer, and every day it feels like the clock is ticking louder. We've heard about a 2-year, $40 million offer, then a 2-year, $45 million offer, but both of those came with a team option attached. And from everything that's leaked, Kuminga isn't thrilled about that. He's even floated the idea of just signing his qualifying offer, betting on himself, and hitting the open market next summer. That's a risky move for him, but it also puts Golden State in a tricky position. Here's the thing. There's actually a scenario where the Warriors might not hate it if Kuminga does sign that qualifying offer. It would give them a little more breathing room financially, let them make other minimum roster moves, and keep the door open for mid-season trades. But if you're trying to maximize value, a sign and trade might be the smarter play. One destination that's been tossed around is Phoenix, and while the exact math doesn't quite line up perfectly, the framework could still be there. A package involving players like Royce O'Neal or Nick Richards, plus some picks, could give Golden State both depth and flexibility. Comparisons always spark debate, and looking at Josh Giddey's new contract really puts Kuminga's market value into perspective. Giddey is taller, has elite vision, can orchestrate an offense, and impacts the game in more ways than just scoring. Kuminga, meanwhile, brings positional versatility, athleticism, and a strong isolation game, but he hasn't yet developed a reliable three-point shot. In today's NBA, that's a real limitation. Still, his ability to create his own shot in isolation situations is valuable. Not many young players are polished in that area anymore because so many teams emphasize constant ball movement. Having someone who can break down a defense one-on-one is a weapon, even if it doesn't always fit the Warriors' pass-happy style. At the end of the day, Kuminga and the Warriors both need clarity. Training camp is creeping closer, and the longer this drags out, the more it impacts every other roster decision. If he's willing to accept that 2-year, $45 million deal, but demands the team option be removed, that could be the compromise that finally ends the stalemate. Without that option hanging over him, he'd have security. The Warriors would have him locked in during the remainder of Steph's prime years, and if things don't work out, he's still movable at the deadline. A young player on a manageable deal is always attractive to teams looking to add talent midseason. And that's where the trade angle comes in again. If Golden State decided by February that Kuminga wasn't fitting the way they hoped, they could flip him for a solid return. Teams wouldn't just be renting him for a playoff run. they'd be acquiring a year and a half of control, which adds a lot more value. That's why dropping the team option might actually increase his trade value rather than hurt it. Right now, the uncertainty has created tension, and the longer it lingers, the worse it gets for both sides. While that situation plays out, another pressing issue is Malcolm Brogdon. For months, we've heard the Warriors linked to him, but now the danger is that their patience with Kuminga could cost them Brogdon entirely. Other teams are circling, and the Minnesota Timberwolves in particular should make every Warriors fan nervous. Minnesota already proved they can beat Golden State in a playoff series, and adding a steady veteran point guard like Brogdon would only make them tougher. Pairing him with Anthony Edwards, Rudy Gobert, Jaden McDaniels, and the rest of that core would give them a reliable ball handler who can keep the offense organized and add another scoring option. Imagine facing Minnesota in the playoffs with Mike Conley still starting, Brogdon coming in as either a backup or in a dual guard rotation, and Edwards leading the charge. That's a nightmare scenario for Golden State, especially considering the Timberwolves' size and defensive presence. Losing out on Brogdon to Minnesota would be a major blow. The Knicks have also been mentioned as a possible landing spot, but that feels less likely. They already have Jalen Brunson logging huge minutes, Deuce McBride providing strong perimeter defense, and Tyler Kolek waiting in the wings. The Wolves, though, they make a lot of sense. The urgency is real. Training camp is just weeks away. Free agents are disappearing off the board, and Golden State can't afford to wait much longer. Josh Giddey got his long-term deal. Cam Thomas decided to stick with his qualifying offer, and Kuminga is now the last major domino still standing. The Warriors need him to make up his mind so they can finally pivot to the rest of their offseason priorities. This is the kind of crossroads moment that can shape an entire season. Either they lock in Kuminga on terms that work for both sides, or they move on and use that clarity to chase pieces like Brogdon and other role players who can elevate the roster. But what they absolutely cannot do is let indecision paralyze them while their competition strengthens. For a team still trying to maximize Steph Curry's championship window, every day matters, and every roster spot is crucial. The Warriors right now find themselves at a crossroads that feels eerily similar to moments they have faced in the past, where one decision on a single player can ripple across the entire roster and determine how far the team can realistically go. The clock is ticking not only on Jonathan Kuminga's situation, but also on the Warriors' ability to put together a roster that can compete with the younger, more athletic teams in the Western Conference. You look at how Minnesota surged past them in the playoffs. You look at how Denver still looms with Nikola Jokic in his prime, and you see Oklahoma City turning into a serious powerhouse with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Golden State cannot afford to stumble into the season without a clear plan, because the margin for error has never been smaller. That's why Kuminga's indecision stings so much. He has the potential to be a foundational piece, but his development curve has not been smooth enough to erase all doubts. In stretches, he flashes the kind of raw athletic dominance that makes you think he could be a two-way star. Then, in other stretches, the lack of a consistent outside shot and his tendency to drift in and out of the offense become glaring. For a franchise that is still trying to win now, while also preparing for life after Steph, those inconsistencies are brutal to manage. If they overcommit and lock him into a contract that doesn't work, they lose flexibility. If they hesitate too long, they risk alienating him and watching his trade value sink. The frustration is compounded by the fact that the Warriors have other pressing decisions to make. Malcolm Brogdon is not going to sit around forever, waiting for Golden State to free up space or finalize what they want to do with Kuminga. If Minnesota strikes quickly and secures Brogdon, that's another swing player gone from the market. And once training camp starts, the window to add impact veterans narrows drastically. There's a reason you see contenders move aggressively in the summer. By October, most meaningful options are gone. Adding another layer to the pressure is Steph Curry's timeline. He's not getting younger, and while he is still capable of putting up elite numbers and carrying the team in stretches, asking him to cover for roster holes at this stage of his career is dangerous. The Warriors need to surround him with reliable players who can take pressure off, hit open shots, defend at a high level, and provide playmaking when Steph is not on the floor. That's why someone like Brogdon makes so much sense. He brings steadiness, veteran leadership, and efficiency. Missing out on him would force Golden State to gamble on lesser fits, which could end up costing them in the postseason. Another interesting wrinkle is the possibility of reuniting with Seth Curry. It might not be the blockbuster signing that moves the needle in terms of title odds, but it would give Golden State another shooter who knows how to move within their system. Imagine having both Kawhis on the floor together, spacing defenses to the breaking point. Defenders would have to pick their poison, and while Seth isn't the all-time great his brother is, he's carved out a reputation as one of the most reliable three-point specialists in the league. In a system built around movement and spacing, that kind of skill set is always valuable. But beyond the backcourt, the Warriors also have to think long and hard about their frontcourt depth. Kevin Looney has been steady and dependable, but he's not the kind of game-changer you can rely on against the elite bigs in the West. Draymond Green remains the emotional leader and defensive anchor, but at his age and with his history of injuries and suspensions, the team cannot afford to lean on him without reinforcements. That's why names like Nikola Vucevic keep coming up. A stretch big who can rebound, pass, and provide another scoring option would balance the roster and give Kerr more flexibility. If they can't land someone of that caliber, then they risk once again entering the season undersized and overmatched in the paint. All of this goes back to timing. The Warriors don't have the luxury of dragging this process out. Every day, Kuminga hesitates. Every day, management debates whether to drop the team option. Another door potentially closes. You can already see it happening. Free agents who could have been great fits are signing elsewhere, and the market is thinning out. At some point, Bob Myers' successor in the front office has to make a firm call. Either commit to Kuminga on terms that stabilize the situation or pull the trigger on a trade that brings back pieces ready to contribute now. The danger of standing still is that the rest of the conference is not standing still. The Timberwolves are hungry and getting better. The Nuggets remain the gold standard. The Thunder are loaded with young talent and assets. Even the Kings, who play with incredible pace and spacing, are a constant threat. If the Warriors don't adapt, they risk becoming the team everyone respects but no longer fears. And once that aura of invincibility fades, it is almost impossible to get it back. What complicates matters even more is that Kuminga knows his leverage. He knows the Warriors don't want to lose him for nothing, and he knows that the fanbase still sees him as a possible breakout star. That's why the team option has become such a sticking point. From Kuminga's perspective, it feels like a lack of trust. From the Warriors' side, it's about protecting themselves from overcommitting to a player who has not proven consistency. It's a classic standoff, but one that needs resolution fast. If Golden State does cave and remove the option, then the next step becomes integrating Kuminga fully into the system in a way that maximizes his strengths while masking his weaknesses. That means giving him the ball in isolation spots, encouraging him to attack mismatches, and surrounding him with shooters to punish defenses when they collapse. It also means demanding more defensive consistency and smarter decision-making, because talent alone won't cut it in the playoffs. If he embraces that challenge, he could become the kind of X factor who swings a series. If he doesn't, the Warriors will be right back in this position a year from now, only with less flexibility. Before we continue, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any exclusive Dubs updates. Let's keep going. In a move that has already set the basketball world buzzing, whispers around the league suggest that Cody Martin is on the verge of joining the Golden State Warriors. Known for his versatility, defensive tenacity, and ability to stretch the floor, Martin could be the missing piece in a Warriors lineup that has long sought a two-way wing capable of changing the flow of a game. Sources close to the situation claim that the discussions between Martin's camp and the front office have been very promising. And while nothing is officially confirmed, insiders hint that a deal could be finalized sooner rather than later. If this rumor proves true, the impact on Golden State could be significant. Martin's skill set aligns almost perfectly with the Warriors' style of play. Switchable defense, smart off-ball movement, and a three-point shot that demands attention. Analysts speculate that adding a player like Martin could free up Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson even more, allowing them to focus on scoring while Martin handles crucial defensive assignments and creates open looks for his teammates. Beyond the on-court dynamics, Martin brings a level of energy and competitiveness that has often been described as contagious in locker rooms, something the Warriors could certainly use in tight playoff battles. The timing of this potential signing also raises eyebrows. The Warriors, known for carefully constructing championship-ready rosters, rarely make splash moves outside of free agency windows. Yet, Martin's availability and skill profile might have presented an irresistible opportunity. League insiders are speculating that if the deal goes through, it could signal a subtle but meaningful shift in Golden State's approach, mixing youth and athleticism with their well-oiled veteran core. Fans have already taken to social media, expressing excitement and curiosity, debating how Martin's presence might alter rotations, matchups, and even the team's overall identity. While the rumor remains unverified, the buzz is undeniable. Could Cody Martin be the surprise ingredient that propels the Warriors to another championship run? For now, all eyes remain on the Bay Area as speculation continues to swirl, and the basketball world waits for an official announcement that could reshape the league's landscape. Stay updated exclusively with the latest Dub Nation news. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to keep getting daily updates on the Warriors. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. Your input is essential for the Dubs community. Stay tuned for the next video.